When Australia was colonized by British convicts in the late 1700s, human settlers brought non-native species such as cats or Felis catus to the continent. As a result of human introduction, feral cats have become an invasive species in Australia, which is when a species alien to an environment harms its native occupants. Currently, feral cats are prevalent in 99.8% of the entire continent, with a population of 2 to 6 million of them across Australia. The human introduction of non-native cats has affected species diversity in Australian terrestrial ecosystems, particularly among Australia's endemic small mammal species. Since the introduction of feral cats, 34 of Australia's native animals have gone extinct, 22 of which have been directly linked to cat predation. Feral cats directly predate upon small mammals such as the booty, which registers as meal size for the cats. Due to the scale of cat predation, booty populations decreased to the point of extinction in the mid-20th century. In other cases, cats spread diseases that eliminate native populations. For example, feral cats carry a parasite known as toxoplasmosis, which is lethal when transferred to wallabies and has contributed to significant drops in the species population. Furthermore, feral cats compete for food with other native animals, consuming stable energy sources and leaving less for wallabies or booties to obtain the energy required to survive for reproduction. One solution to minimize the growth of invasive species is the implementation of Eradicat and 1080 poisonous baiting programs. In baiting, conservationists airlift poisonous baits in the form of sausages to cull areas with high cat populations. Biodiversity is important because it is a key element in an environment's ability to regulate the cycling of carbon. According to a recent study in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution, ecosystems with greater mammal biodiversity had higher carbon concentrations in soil because they had the highest frequency of feeding interactions, which increased soil interaction with carbon materials. As a result, greater biodiversity can increase carbon sequestration in an ecosystem, bolstering climate change mitigation and carbon cycling. Furthermore, biodiversity plays an important role in boosting the ecosystem's productivity as well as providing essential natural buffers against natural disasters. These species each have a specific role to play within their respective ecosystems, which heavily increases the ecosystem's productivity. This includes protecting freshwater resources and maintaining the stability of ecosystem properties such as the food web or sediment types. Baiting directly increases biodiversity by lethally poisoning large portions of the feral cat population in threatened regions of Australia. In decreasing the population of cats, native species experience less predation, competition for food, natural resources, and habitats. Less cats survive to reproduce, limiting long-term repopulation. As a result, these species are able to better find ample nutrition and survive to reproduce, minimizing human impact by returning populations to pre-settlement levels. The structure of poisonous baits are specifically designed to limit risk to native species. Poisons such as 1080 and Curiosity are artificial compounds known as sodium fluoroacetate that mirror those found in native Australian plants. Therefore, while the poison is highly lethal to non-native species, the majority of native species have a tolerance for the poison, having evolved with it. In addition, poison in the bait is carried in a pellet known as a hard-shelled delivery vehicle. While cats tend to consume large chunks of food indiscriminately at once, native species tend to chew their food better and have been shown to spit out the pellet. Therefore, the physical structure of the bait itself functions as a safety measure to limit accidental harm to native species. In terms of sustainability, baiting programs have no long-term adverse effects on the environment or native species. The poison used in 1080 and Curiosity baits are administered in small doses and are biodegradable. However, the efficacy of long-term baiting programs is limited because they are dependent upon weather conditions. During rainfall, bait must be refrigerated, where over a few days mold or rancidity begin to occur due to lack of air movement. Not only does this increase the cost of baiting programs, but it also means that the solution would have a limited impact on the wetter regions of northern Australia and would have to be suspended during rainier seasons. From an economic perspective, baits are airlifted, which makes them more cost-friendly because they address remote regions and terrain that would be difficult for humans to reach and hunt cats in, thus lowering labor costs and potential collateral damage. In helicopters, conservationists can drop 1,000 baits an hour over hectares of land. While there are no conclusions to the cost-benefit ratio of baiting programs, the cost-effectiveness of the solution is limited because baits have to be created for each individual cat, which increases the cost of production in comparison to releasing diseases or parasites where one dose would be spread throughout the population with minimal human involvement. Therefore, baiting is limited in its ability to impact biodiversity because targeted populations can simply repopulate after culling. This contrasts to other solutions such as neutering or genetically engineering daughterless cats, which directly target long-term repopulation. To be politically and socially viable, a solution must also be humane. The safety of Eradicat in 1080 has been approved and scientifically vetted by the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority in 2008. Furthermore, the poisons are generally considered to be humane because they painlessly render the organism unconscious before death, avoiding unnecessary harm. Nevertheless, any solution to the feral cat problem could face political backlash that would limit implementation due to historically high social regard for domestic cats. Subsequently, a major public concern is the threat of poison to domestic cats and dogs. However, the risk to pets is limited because baiting is conducted primarily in remote regions away from urban centers. Although there is little research backing its cost-effectiveness and the solution is limited by weather and its ability to prevent future repopulation, this solution has little threat to native species, has been proven to be effective, has no negative impacts on the environment, and meets humane criteria. Therefore, we believe that the strength of poison baiting outweighs its limitations. In conclusion, poison baiting should be implemented to protect Australia's national treasures and biodiversity. Support the government to #SolveDifferent when it comes to tackling the attack of the killer cats.